It was the middle of the Civil War, a time when America was literally fighting for its survival. The Union faced enemies not only on the battlefield, but in its very economy. Banks were hesitant to lend, supplies were scarce, and soldiers weren't getting paid on time. Every day brought news that the country might collapse under the weight of debt, fear, and war. And in the eye of this storm stood one man, Abraham Lincoln, calm, determined, but facing a decision so dangerous, so unprecedented, that if it failed, the United States as we know it might never have existed. Today, we're diving into the secret financial gamble Lincoln took, a decision that history rarely talks about, but could have destroyed a nation. To understand the magnitude of this gamble, we need to set the stage. It's 1862. The Civil War has dragged on for over a year. The Union Army needs money for weapons, for uniforms, for food, but the U.S. Treasury is nearly empty. Traditional banks have turned away the government, fearing the risk is too high. Without funding, the army could collapse, and with it, the very future of the nation. Lincoln had two options: beg for help he might not receive, or take a radical approach that could be considered illegal, reckless, even insane. And he chose the latter. He authorized the printing of paper money, which came to be known as greenbacks. These notes were not backed by gold or silver. They were, in the eyes of many, just promises that could easily fail. Economists warned that this move could trigger runaway inflation, destroy trust in the government, and collapse the financial system entirely. Imagine the tension in Washington. One wrong move, and every dollar in circulation, every soldier's pay, every government contract could be rendered worthless overnight. Critics were relentless. Politicians whispered that Lincoln was gambling with the nation's future. Newspapers called it reckless and dangerous. And yet, the president pressed on. Lincoln understood something crucial. Waiting for the perfect solution could cost more lives than taking a risk. Every greenback printed carried not just monetary value, but hope for a divided and struggling nation. The gamble was real, unprecedented, and terrifying. And at first, the results seemed even more frightening. Inflation fears spread like wildfire. Merchants hesitated to accept the new currency. Economists and politicians alike held their breath. Was this the end? Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, something remarkable happened. The greenbacks began circulating. Soldiers were paid. Factories kept producing weapons. Supplies reached the front lines. The Union Army kept fighting. Lincoln's gamble was working, but the danger was never truly gone. Every day was a tightrope walk. Opponents continued to warn of disaster. Critics claimed the nation was walking a financial tightrope without a net. One misstep could undo everything, creating an economic collapse far worse than anything Americans would experience for decades. Lincoln himself understood the weight of every decision. Each greenback, each authorization, each calculation carried consequences for millions of lives. One wrong move could have bankrupted the country, turned public opinion against him, and given the Confederacy a financial advantage it desperately needed. Yet, despite the tension, the gamble began to stabilize. Slowly but surely, trust returned. The greenbacks circulated, and the economy adapted. Soldiers were paid. Factories stayed open. Supplies moved to the front lines. And most importantly, the Union held together. By the end of the war, the gamble had not only succeeded, it had reshaped the American financial system for generations to come. What could have destroyed the nation instead became one of the foundations of its modern economy. Lincoln's daring, calculated risk demonstrated the power of vision, courage, and decisive action under extreme pressure. It's easy to forget that every dollar we hold today carries with it a story of risk, calculation, and survival. The Greenbacks are more than currency. They're a symbol of the bold decision-making that preserved a nation. Lincoln's financial gamble reminds us that history is not just about battles and politics. It's about the quiet, audacious choices that determine the fate of millions. And it leaves us with a question. If a single man facing unimaginable pressure could take such a calculated risk to save a nation, what bold decisions are being made today, quietly, behind the scenes? What gambles are shaping our world, our economy, and our future in ways we may not even realize? History teaches us that great victories often come not from playing it safe, but from risking everything at exactly the right moment. Abraham Lincoln's financial gamble was one of those moments. It could have destroyed a nation. Behind every note is a story of risk, vision, and survival. And behind every great financial decision, there is the courage to act when the stakes are impossibly high, the courage to gamble when failure could mean total collapse.